Welcome to the beautiful Tracy's here, uptown on Magazine and Pleasant. I'm Brandon Thomas, joined by Mike Triplett and Nick Underhill. We're here with the Q&A show to answer your questions. Break down last night's game. Let's continue the conversation, guys. What kind of there's some afterthoughts after last night's game?
Well, I mean, I watched the passing plays this morning, still working through the film. We'll get through the rest of it and have the breakdown on NewOrleans.Football a little bit later today. I actually thought Derek Carr handled pressure better than I thought he did. I mean, there was just a lot of plays where he didn't have time to make things happen. It wasn't really like a panic Derek Carr type game. It was just kind of a disaster in the middle of the offensive line type game after Eric McCoy went down. So that was kind of my big takeaway from it right away. Look, I still think it's early in the season. I still think this is a good team. You know, they're going to have to find a way to overcome the loss of Eric McCoy. I think with weeks to plan for it. I think that, you know, they'll probably be okay, more so than they were last night, losing him. I think you put a lot on a player like that. And then next week when he's not playing, I think they'll find a way to kind of maybe plan that a little bit better. So that's kind of my big takeaway, is that was a massive thing. We recognize it was massive in the moment, and then just watching through the passing plays, like, it was even more of a massive issue than maybe we gave it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, one takeaway I had while we were walking out of the stadium last night was these losses matter so much. You know, there's no shame in losing to a good Eagles team that probably deserved to win this game. Losing by 3 to an Eagles team that was favored up until Tuesday morning. But when we left that Green Bay game in Week 3 last year, the Saints were 2-0.
Yeah.
They had a 19-0 lead, blew that. When Derek Carr got hurt, it was justifiable why they lost. But then they lose that, and you're like, man, that's going to matter at the end of the season. And sure enough, they lose a tiebreaker to Green Bay at the end of the season for the final playoff spot. And, you know, it's just – you know, the margin for error is so slim in this league that I think the biggest shame of yesterday's game was not that the Saints had a stinker. They're going to have stinkers. But when a game is within your grasp, those things always count. So I think that was the biggest disappointment of yesterday, even whether it was 37-34 or 15-12, is that they couldn't pull it out when Philadelphia gave them so many opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, the line is so often find a way to win versus find a way to lose, and the Saints found a way to lose that game.
Yeah, I think so.
They had it won, and they found a way to lose it.
Multiple ways.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's disappointing about it. Like, they kept putting themselves in position to have a chance, and then they got it, and they took the lead. And Carr had a great drive there at the end of the game. He really did. And then the defense flounders, and then they throw the interception going the other way. You know, I don't know if they score on that drive or not. I mean, that's just a throw you don't want to see them make. I don't think it's a massive deal. It's a bad decision. There was a lot of pressure on him. 3 guys closing in. He kind of lets it rip. You don't want to take a sack there, but you do just want to throw the ball away. But, I mean, the more egregious thing to me is the collision going the other way. And, you know, they were looking for a safety during the offseason. If they had gotten one, like, maybe there's different people on the field and you don't have that happen. But that's a very, very tough way to lose a game after the defense played pretty great for most of the day outside of maybe 2 moments.
Yeah, going into the chat on YouTube, make sure y'all are asking your questions in the YouTube chat and on Twitter. CJ asks, do you think other defenses will be able to replicate what the Eagles did to us, or was it just a matter of them having superior talent?
Well, I mean, I think a big part of it is losing your center on the 3rd play of the game. And like I said, I think that's a lot you put on him. I think there's things you do up front with him that you wouldn't do without him. You play to his talent. You use protection schemes with him that you wouldn't necessarily use it without him. So I think with like a level of planning, it's going to be a little bit better the next few weeks while he's not playing. So that's something that I think that they're going to have to try to figure out and try to plan for. And we saw that they can scheme around some of that stuff. You know, they did a really good job of taking away the inside run. They were kind of stacking the line a little bit with some of that stuff. I wouldn't be surprised to see other teams focus on, okay, this team wants to run for 170 yards every game and throw the ball 15 times if they can. So we're going to take that away, and we want them to beat us with the arm. I mean, I think that's the way that we're going to see some of these games stack up. So, yeah, there'll be some of it, but the Saints will adjust to that too. That's kind of the ebbs and flow of a season. And if you actually are a good offense and you actually have a good staff, like, they're going to find ways to adjust to the adjustments, and that's kind of how it goes throughout the season. So I don't know that I'm immediately worried about season-long things coming out of that game right away. Overall, we've seen them play more good than bad. It's one game. You're going to lose some games during the season. You're going to have some bad days. Unfortunately, they couldn't find a way to win on one of their bad days, and that's the difference usually between good teams and great teams, or good teams and bad teams. So we'll see what it ends up shaking out to be. But I mean, the bigger concern is how do they overcome the loss of Eric McCoy? That's the story of the next month of the season.
Totally fair question though, because whether it's a myth or reality or what a generic stereotype, I'm not thinking of the right word, but people always say, okay, so the Saints did this in the first 2 weeks, but now the league can watch tape and figure out what they're doing. And I think this was the biggest fear for people who wanted to believe the first 2 weeks is, all right, now that they're not catching anyone by surprise, what if somebody, quote unquote, figures them out? That's way oversimplifying and stuff, but it is scary to see that. It is scary to see that once a team was prepared for what the Saints like to do, now that they had 2 games of tape to look at, they were able to really shut them down. So I thought Nick gave a great answer, though. Adjust to the adjustments. We trust in this staff for good reason. We like this staff in February. We liked them in May. We liked them in July. That is one thing we've never wavered on. It is not something that we just liked what they did in week 1 and week 2. So I think they will have good adjustments to the adjustments. But it's a totally fair question, because it's probably the biggest fear is did they catch people by surprise in the first 2 weeks? And now they're not going to do that anymore. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to still be good at their jobs.
Sticking with Eric McCoy, these next questions are from Rick Pat 15. It's a two-parter. What confidence do you have in the offense for the coming weeks without McCoy? Felt like everything was out of sync without him. And then also, why not put Caesar in at center and bring Saldiveri to that side instead of moving Lucas Patrick to center?
Well, second one first. I think Lucas Patrick is somebody. I was actually talking to someone last week on the team, and it was it was just, hey, talking about the guys, how they prepare and stuff. And Lucas Patrick was mentioned as one of the most prepared players on the team, top five guys, most prepared, most set up to kind of have success. So I think you move him there because you feel like he's best equipped to do the job. I know Caesar played it in college. Caesar was one of the guys that was out of sorts in this game. So I think Lucas actually played pretty good in pass pro from what I saw this morning going over the games. I thought he had a good is a strong word, but I thought he was fine. I thought he was fine in pass pro, and you kind of throw him in that on the fly. So I think that's why he went there. I'm guessing he'll be there next week. So we'll see how they go forward with that. I think figuring out that other guard spot is the biggest question. And does Ulioto play better with the week to prepare? Do you look at Saldiveri? Do you look at Landon Young? Do you look outside the building? I think those are kind of the big questions. Confidence level, I mean, it's rattled, obviously. I mean, that's one of the most important players on the team. And given where he plays, the position he plays, that group being something we feel is probably the weakness of the team, taking the best player off it and asking him to figure out a way to succeed is terrifying. So, I based on what we saw the first couple of weeks with their ability to hide Penning and kind of not put too much on Fuaga's plate either, maybe they find out another way on the inside. But, I mean, you're hiding a lot now, and he's kind of the anchor point of that line. I mean, how much can you put under the rug before the rug has a lump, So I don't know. We're going to find out.
I like that.
Yeah.
And on Lucas Patrick, I mean, that wasn't like a oh no, what are we going to do decision. I mean, it was the plan all off season. He took a ton of snaps as the backup center, the number 2 center throughout camp all summer. He's started 57 games in his career, a lot of them at center. He's more experienced at center than Cesar Ruiz is. And not to mention that obviously you don't want to turn 2 positions into a question mark if you don't have to. So I absolutely expect Lucas Patrick to be the starting center and them to find someone else to play guard, like Nick said. And yeah, of course I'm worried. I mean, the only thing is what Nick said is having the entire week to be like, all right, this is what we've got, so this is what our plan has to be, is better than, figuring out on the fly. Now we don't have Eric McCoy. How do we adjust?
Going back to the YouTube chat, shout out to Kevin Ross, man, for the super chat. Appreciate your support. Appreciate you supporting what we do. Your question is, after reviewing some film, where were the tight ends taken out of the game plan since they had to help for protection, or just no time to get them the ball?
Well, I think they were doing a lot with them and trying to pull them into protection. Like the 3rd and 1 shot down the field, it was like a 2-man concept, and like you kind of have max protect on it, and then like Foster gets out and you have Rashid, and those are the only 2 routes on the play. Like, but you got people tight blocking on a lot of plays. Like they were trying to bring help. There was a lot of stuff where it's like chip Brandon Graham and then get out into your route. So I think that was just kind of part of how they tried to approach the game. But it's a position where I think they could definitely use some more talent. I mean, you kind of are expecting Juwan to do a little bit more in the passing game, and it just hasn't quite happened yet. I know like they wanted to get him involved early in this game, and then that didn't, happen. Obviously, kind of everything gets thrown to the wayside, and you're just trying to find a way to stay upright and get the ball out. So yeah, it's definitely part of it, but I think the other part of it is that it's just not a strong position right now.
Yeah, one thing that I would need somebody to explain to me, and the Saints never are going to reveal what they're thinking or whatever, but one thing that did stick with me as a little bit of a concern for this offense is, we've said it a few times, but outside of Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, and Rashid Shaheed, they do need to show that they have a plan for getting other guys involved. I don't know if the tight ends absolutely need to be a part of this protection to hide the offensive lineman under the rug. But Cedric Wilson caught his first pass of the season. I think Mason Tipton has 2 catches. A.T. Perry has none. Bud Means has none. Like, are they just like, if we can't run the ball and if we can't get the ball to Shaheed or Olave, we don't have anything else? They need to, I think, start showing some other elements of people they can get the ball to without question. But
I think the bigger issue on that, though, is that they need another guy. Like I think that's the bigger issue here is that they need another guy. And Shaheed's not somebody that's going to go out and make kind of difficult catches. Like that's just kind of not his game. So who is that guy? Like Olave's showing you a little bit of it. You would hope Juwan would do it. Like Foster can do a little bit of it. Obviously Alvin can, and he had that, contested catch against Bond, but who's the guy? Like, who's the other guy? And this is a game where I feel like you could have used that, 6'1", 220-pound type dude, like going over the middle where, you got interior pressure closing in, and he's not really open over the middle, but he is open over the middle because, like, he's a physical presence. They don't have that. And that's not A.T. Perry. That's not Cedric Wilson. That's not, they don't have that person on the team. And I think that's the major flaw with the construction of the roster is that, like, they are missing that type of player. And you aren't getting them now. Like, it's too late to get them. Yeah. Maybe somebody becomes available in trade or something, but teams don't typically.
Well, the other thing that was kind of missing yesterday, I mean, we definitely saw it in week 1, was this defense is so focused on a lot of different kind of defense that Carolina runs, obviously, and they're not going to get beat deep over there. I mean, we saw Foster Moreau wide open. We saw Juwan Johnson wide open. Like, you would think some of these guys would be the beneficiary of being left alone, even. So I'm very surprised that they're not. They're catching like 0 passes. These guys. Yeah.
I mean, well, they didn't play week 2. They were just in their 2 receiver personnel. They went to more 3 this week, but like. They were the pass rush was just so good. Like, you just couldn't get the ball out in this game. And I don't think everybody's going to have a Vic Fangio plan, and I don't think everybody has the personnel to match up the same exact way that they did. But some teams are, and it's probably going to be tough for them on those days. But I'm not necessarily worried 17 weeks out of the year. But if they do make it into the playoffs, like, you do need somebody else. I don't understand necessarily like why that never came to fruition. But I think it's still something that I would be looking to try to do. And I know I've heard some things about different players that they were interested in, and I don't think it's something that was like overlooked. I think it's just like the opportunity hasn't materialized to actually strike. But I don't know, like that is something that concerns me about this team. And in a dogfight like that yesterday, like, you could use one more guy.
I would say though, I'll be surprised if Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson aren't 6th offensive linemen in this next game too. I mean, with the state of the current offensive line, I think that's going to be their number 1 job.
Next up from Bashel, why did they keep running into 6 people on the line when it wasn't working?
I don't hate that. I mean, that's a little bit of a 20/20 hindsight thing, and I used to be the same way. Like, me and Sean Payton thought alike. Like, why beat your head against the ball running just to say you're running? But this is what this staff believes in to its core, and it's what leads to all the other good stuff. And I even said it as a positive pregame when we were making our predictions that Clint Kubiak and his staff were not going to abandon the run even if things didn't go their way early in the game and they got down by 10. And I just thought that was going to be their key to winning. I mean, Philadelphia came into that game with the number 32. I don't know how, with the number 32 run defense in the NFL and tons of different metrics. So I don't mind that they kept trying to make that work. But obviously, in hindsight, it looks like it was futile.
What's the other option?
Yeah.
What are you gonna like? Do you? Like,
you're not standing back there and throwing because you get 1 second to throw.
Yeah. I mean, do you want Carter just smoking Ruiz every single snap, or smoking Uli Udo every single snap, and have Derek drop back 55 times, and then he's just getting murdered back there? Like, what are the options here? What are you supposed to do in a game? Like, they just didn't. You got to do one or two. Like, I would rather have Alvin average 3.3 yards than be losing 3.3 yards on because you're getting sacked over and over and over and over. So out of the two extremes, like, it is the better way to go. The outside zone wasn't really working great. Some of the inside plays obviously weren't working great. Like, nothing was working great in this game. But you have to try to do something. And at least, if you're running for 3.3 every single play, like, you're still, you're a tenth of a yard away from a first down on fourth down. So it's not a totally negative play. It just wasn't a great positive. But there weren't positives like to be found for this offense in this game. So you do have to run the ball. Like, I think that's what they have to try to do. And I'm not mad at that. Like, it just, it wasn't working great, but like, I don't see like a door B is like, well, they should have did this and it would have worked. Like, I think door B works worse than door A, so I just don't see like a positive outcome there.
We have a super chat from Defy Club. We appreciate your support. They ask, has your opinion of Kubiak changed at all after yesterday's game?
No, not really. I mean, like, it was a tough game. I mean, I wasn't hiring him to be a head coach after week 2 either, though. So, I mean, it's just kind of, here's the thing. Like, they were so high that, like, the crash is so far. The crash is so far. Like, if they were just winning games like 27-21 the first couple of weeks and then you have this game, it isn't like such an extreme. So, like, I understand people being like, oh, my God, what happened? Like, was it fool's gold or whatever? I don't think it was. Like, I think they're a good team that played a good team that has really good coaches too, and sometimes you're going to be foiled. Like, it's just kind of the way it goes. But they still should have won the game. They almost found a way to win it. And if they had found a way to win it, I don't think anybody feels that bad about it. There is underbelly here. You would examine it. We'd be having a lot of the same conversations about a lot of different things. But it would be like through a prism of like, well, okay, like they played that game and now they're going to figure it out and they showed they had character. Unfortunately, there's a crash in the middle of the field and character got ejected, out the window. And, that's just the way it is. But, yeah, I mean, I still think he's a good coach. I still think they have a good staff. I think they're going to come back next week and find a way to look better without McCoy and things will settle down. But, I'm not giving up on him.
You used crash twice in that answer, and they had two totally different meetings. There's some sort of great lead in there. I'll be a little fair to the question, though, and say, has my opinion changed on him? Only slightly. I mean, I was reaching the point where we were answering questions, I think, last week about, is Alvin going to win Offensive Player of the Year? And I'm like, gosh, I think he's going to score 18 touchdowns. And we were like, you're only picking him to win 10 games? So how are they going to lose 7 games? And now I'm seeing, he's human. He's not a miracle worker. Like, not that I thought 40 every week, but I also didn't think inability to do anything. He's more human than I thought. I still think it's, the hire of the year. I still think he's great and the biggest reason for hope on this team or whatever. But now I realize it's going to be tough.
I mean, but to be fair to him, like, you lose your best player on the offensive line on the third snap of the game, and you're playing with literally backups and a rookie that's playing a new position. I mean, what's he supposed to do there? I think it's a really unfair scale to kind of like kill somebody for that. Cause
I'm not killing him at all.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying like the fan base. Like, there's no way to kind of overcome it. I still think Alvin's going to score a ton of touchdowns. I still think there's a reality where he's going to be in that conversation for OPOY if he stays healthy, and they keep doing these things. Like, it's going to get back to where it was, and I still think they're probably a 10-win team. Like, I don't think one game should cause this like dramatic crisis in faith. Like, if though they can't overcome the Eric McCoy thing, like, everything's out the window. And that's where the whole season could fall apart. Like, the big concern here, like, it shouldn't be, is Clint a good coach? It's like they were paper-thin depth across the board on offense, and they lost one of their 3 most important players. What happens now? That's the conversation to have. But I don't think it's fair to be like, well, this guy actually sucks because, like, they couldn't overcome Eric McCoy. Like, that's not a fair conversation to have.
Yeah, but a week ago I thought he could turn Gatorade into wine on the sideline, and now I realize he can't.
Sure.
In the Twitter chat from Air Fryer Poppy, do we have any injury updates on McCoy and Ruiz?
I think McCoy's going to miss a decent amount of time. Ruiz told me last night it was just a scare.
Yeah, he only missed 1 snap, and he was in the locker room afterward.
Yeah.
Next up from Big Valley, why have we failed time and time again to obtain a speed rusher? Time has proven the big, tall, slow guys cannot get it done versus modern offenses.
I don't agree with the premise necessarily.
I don't think that was a problem last night. Hurts ran for 25 yards. I don't think that was a problem last night. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where to go with that. I don't think it was a problem last night.
I don't necessarily agree with the premise because, there's a Myles Garrett who's actually close to Chase Young's size, and there's a TJ Watt and there's an Aiden Hutchinson, and those guys all get drafted like number 1 or number 2 overall. Mm-hmm. And then I think the Saints are in sort of their pass rush has been sort of in the next tier over the years. Yeah, of course, they like the big guys. Not everyone likes that. A lot of guys play 3-4. A lot of guys don't mind 240-pound pass rushers, and they don't. But I don't think time has proven that the Saints' approach is wrong. They had maybe the best defense in the league from 2017 to 2020.
I guess we got to define modern offense because to me, modern offense are offenses that run the ball now. I mean, that's half the league. Everybody wants that scheme. Passing is down, running is up. Mm-hmm. I don't want a 240 guy trying to set the edge against a team that wants to run the ball 35 times a game. Like I don't think that's. I think that's where you're getting exposed now. I think that's why everybody runs the ball now is because you do have smaller and smaller guys, so what's the adjustment to that? The adjustment's going to be, okay, we're going to play more physical football and take your little guys and put them out of position. So I just don't I don't think that's the way to skin the cat in 2024.
Although, I mean, we are not exonerating the Saints. They whiffed badly on
they just picked their own
Marcus
guys.
Davenport, Peyton Turner, and Isaiah Foskey. But I like the Chase Young signing. I like Cam Jordan's career. He's just worn down now, only played 20 snaps last night. Yeah. And Carl Granderson's still balling. So I don't think we have proof that the style's not right. But, it's too bad they haven't landed a better one.
It was maybe more of a thing in 18, 19, 20, like when everything's shrinking. But everything's it's going back. Like it's reversing. We went from skinny jeans to baggy jeans. Like it's just kind of like they go in cycles. So things get too small, they start getting bigger. I mean, it's just that football's doing the same thing.
What'd you do with all your skinny jeans? Yard sale?
Yard sale? No, man. Throw those things in a box, man. The Habitat for Humanity or whatever it is.
Yeah, shout out. Next up from Derek Sansbury, Kamara's touches have gone up a lot to start the season.
They sure have.
Do the Saints need to find another running back to help spell Kamara, or are they putting all their eggs into Kendra Miller for that role?
No, well, they're not going to again, this is you don't just go out and find someone else. I mean, the guys on the street now are probably Jamal Williams level, the veterans who haven't signed. Jordan Mims has not shown us the flash that we saw this offseason. Mm-hmm. It would sure help a ton if Kendra Miller is better. But, yeah, I'm a little concerned. I think, what did Alvin have, 26 rushes yesterday? Is that what it was, or 26 touches? He played 86% of the snaps. Let me see his touches. He had 26 runs, 3 catches. And time has shown us. I mean, Alvin has had some years where his September numbers made him look like Marshall Faulk, and then he was missing games later in the season. So I don't think they want him touching the ball 29 times a game, and I don't think they have any other option right now. So that's a really good question.
From Akira Tanishu, sadly, Dennis Allen failed to win 3 games in a row. What do you think needs to change to keep momentum for him or for this team?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of said the the 2 wins bought them 2 losses. Bought that, like they fall back to 2-2. I think everyone will be scary. I mean, I think you got to beat Atlanta, or you got to beat Kansas City, or you got to beat Tampa. I mean, this team can't. It's a tough 3-game stretch coming up. You definitely have to beat Denver in Week 7 against Sean Payton. But I think stay ahead of the chains. I think now you can trade wins and losses for a little while, but I think it'd be better if they were 3-2, 4-3, 5-4 till they get into the easier part of their schedule. I don't want to see them fall to 2-3 and 2-4 because I think that negativity is just waiting around the corner.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, for me personally, like I'm just gonna wait to see him fail until I start talking about him being a failure. Like we've been doing this for years now. Like they found their way back last year. Like all the concern was warranted. They got the new staff. Okay, let's wait to see what happens. It looked okay for 2 weeks. It looked mediocre for 1. Like, I'm just gonna wait until there's reason to panic, and I don't think this is a reason to panic. I was kind of surprised to see how quickly so many people were like ejecting yesterday, like just off a 1. Like, bad game, obviously. I understand it. Like, but I'm just not going to start talking about like job security and stuff when they're 2-1 and they scored 91 points in the first 2 weeks. Like that's not a conversation I know how to have.
Yep. Next up from the YouTube chat, everybody's saying, let's not talk Super Bowl right now. But Rick Pat asks, also felt like they barely used any of the screenplays that were effective against Dallas. Was that a part of the game plan?
Screens were bad, man. They were terrible in this game. They really were. I agree. Yeah, they did not look good.
Yeah, screens didn't look good. We didn't see a lot of quick passes that were super effective, a couple to Olave. But, man, it back to that question about 3 questions ago, what should they have done instead of run the ball? There wasn't a lot that was working for this team yesterday. There wasn't every time you did this, that worked. I mean, their 6 most effective plays were like 3rd and 9 passes to Chris Olave where he had to make a fantastic catch to catch it.
Yeah, the only thing that worked was Olave getting open, and getting him the ball when they had time to get him the ball. That was the only effective thing. Shaheed was ineffective. The running game was pretty mid. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing where it's like, man, they should have did that more. It's just like nothing. Yeah, they were just foiled by a defense that had a better plan.
Next up from Dylan, is it time for A.T. Perry to get some run?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the guys in front of him aren't the ones keeping him at bay. But, look, we mentioned Jordan Howden yesterday as being a guy that Dennis Allen kept saying over and over again, we need to see him do this more. And we could just tell that there was a lack of trust somewhere that maybe we weren't seeing because he just wasn't getting on the field. That's been the same narrative with A.T. Perry. We saw it play out with Howden making a mental mistake in a big moment last night. I mean, there is obviously things that they're not seeing from A.T. Perry. They know that he has contested catch ability. They know what he did on some big plays in the preseason games. But they also know what he's not doing right to keep him off the field. So I don't think we can completely say he would solve everything. But I also know that the people playing in front of him aren't the ones keeping him at bay right now.
Next from DJ Johnson, what do you think is the best way to attack Atlanta's defense? Also, I think some serious conversations need to start being had about bringing in another offensive weapon. Any suggestions?
I got to watch Atlanta more before I start going down that trail. I mean, they gotta get somebody. I mean, the only person that's like really out there is like Hunter Renfrow, and sure, like throw him in there, like get somebody that can get open quick, like trade for somebody. I don't know who it is. I don't know who the perfect fit is. I don't know who's actually available. You might have to wait until November for some teams to lose some games, and the McCoy thing could be something that could make that not a path even worth exploring, depending on how the next several games go. So I don't know, but I mean, I think they do need somebody for sure.
I mean, I think the Saints will keep trying to run the ball against Atlanta. They've been all right. Carson Steele looked like he was getting just like the average amount of rushing yards last week. Obviously, Barkley did okay against them. We've been seeing them in prime time or whatever. Atlanta feels to me like they have kind of a medium defense, some talent on it, but one that you should be able to get back on track against. Nothing that you're unable to overcome. I think we're going to see the same thing, figure out how to make that run game work and build everything off of that.
Next from Gage Van Herren, we appreciate the super chat, man. Why haven't we attempted to get more players like Cedric involved? Feels like we only have 3 players on offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they need to figure out.
Yeah. And it's not even try to get Cedric involved. It's I thought one of the best things about this offense that we saw in week 1 was, holy crap, you know, if you try to cover Shaheed and Olave and Kamara, then other guys are going to be wide open. And that surprised me a little that hasn't been the case, that Cedric Wilson isn't just like wide open 12 times a game because they're worried about the other guys. But obviously there's something missing there. And he wasn't on the field a lot, as Nick pointed out in the second game. They only had 2 receivers for the majority of that game.
Going back to a conversation we had during last week's show, you talked about Willie Gay. What did we see from him yesterday?
I thought he looked okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
he played 26 snaps or something like that after he'd only played 20 the whole season. But go ahead and say what you saw.
Yeah, I thought he looked okay. I mean, I'm not putting him on the field ahead of DeMario and Pete Werner, though.
Yeah.
Like, no chance. I think Pete's playing excellent right now. The pressure, I think, was something that really responded. He really responded to sniffing out that the fake tush push was a huge play for him. I think he's playing pretty good football.
No, I agree. I think they probably used Willie Gay about the right amount. I mean, he was part of the plan to stop Hurts and Saquon in their heavy sets and their ability to run the ball. And until Saquon Barkley got him pretty good in the third quarter, but it was bend but don't break. They didn't score any points off of it. If they don't break off that 165-yard run, I think we're here talking about how good their plan was to keep Philly's run game from hurting them yesterday.
Back in the chat from Goonie300, why play man coverage on 3rd and 16?
It's a good question. I mean, look, it's broken on them a few times in some of those situations. I've always been someone, and you can look at the last show before when we were talking about, I don't even remember what game it was. There was a show last week we were talking about a game, and it was the Falcons game. And I was like, I don't understand why people play soft coverages in these situations. Like, I want to lose throwing my punches. Yeah. So
you said it in the press box next to me when that drive started. Don't play prevent.
It's on the and it doesn't even necessarily have to be prevent, but like, I don't know. I want to go out swinging, and I think the thing there is that you got to have a safety who doesn't come down and crash into 2 other people. Like, that's the problem with the play there. It's a fair criticism though. Like, do you play safe and kind of just try to not allow the big play and kind of surrender the 10-yarders and you let them march down the field, and then you try to clamp down in the last 20? I don't know. I mean, that's not a style of football I love myself, but you do keep having execution errors in these kind of situations, and it isn't necessarily a new thing. So it's a tough situation.
It's always a tough call. For what it's worth, there was 2:03 left when they took out. No, 1:58 left because the kickoff return, and they had 3 timeouts. 1:58 with 3 timeouts left, to me, might as well be 4.5 minutes. Like, I think you have to treat that like a drive where Philly has enough time. If it was 45 seconds and 1 timeout, I think you change your approach. But 1:58 with 3 timeouts, I think you have to treat like they've got plenty of time and plenty of downs. We can't just keep giving them first downs, because then all of a sudden it'll be 1:10 left and they're in the red zone. Yeah,
it's play to win versus play not to lose, and I don't know, like, this is my personal approach to things is I'm going to try to go win. Like, I'm going to try to go win the game. But I think it's wide open for criticism because they didn't execute it well. So if you're going to do it, you have to execute it, and that's kind of always the thing with football. When it works, you're brilliant. When it doesn't work, you're an idiot. And they just have to execute that better.
Next from Zay, this is a statement: Perry needs to be activated over Tipton.
What Perry over Tipton? I mean, I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to see what it is.
You can't take Tipton off the field.
Yeah.
I thought they'd have more. I thought they'd show us a wrinkle with him that they haven't shown yet. Although I will say he's made 2 catches. I haven't seen. Maybe he's not getting open, but he had to make a tough catch. I mean, I haven't seen him screw up, but he's obviously not getting open.
Yeah, I mean, you said it before. I don't think it's anyone keeping Perry off the field. I think it's probably something with Perry is the reason he's not playing.
Yeah. Carl Martin, also concerning is the way Carr completely panicked during that last drive. The Saints still had time.
Yeah, throwing that pass was bad. Like, you can't throw that pass. So you got to find a way to throw that away. I mean, it's just I know he's trying to avoid the sack. The one thing you don't want to do is take a sack there. I mean, you're trying to preserve time. You're trying to just kind of sky it down the field. You got 3 people coming in on you. Like, you don't make the throw. I mean, that you can't have that. You don't want the game to end like that. So yeah, I mean, That's not a play you can have.
Yeah, completely agree. You can criticize him as much as you want for that one throw.
Brent asked, do you think DeMario plays next week? You can tell his hamstring was an issue on the Goddard play.
That's a good point. We won't know for sure, but, yeah, it's something to monitor, absolutely.
I can tell you this, like, he's going to spend 60 hours trying to rehab that thing with the best people in the world. So, yeah, I would expect him to play because he always plays, but we'll see. Yeah.
Next up from Mike 52, expect Hergel to be called up in the upcoming weeks?
Who?
Kyle
Hergel. I would think almost Shane Lemieux might be ahead of him. But either one of them, yeah, for sure. If McCoy's down, one of those guys will be up.
Kobe Weber is asking about the Raiders. They said, what about Devontae Adams or Jacoby Myers?
Well, I mean,
the Raiders aren't out of it. Wait,
who were the guys making business decisions yesterday?
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I had read that this morning. Yesterday, Adams had.
Did you see that, Antonio Pierce? He went to the podium and said that he had people on the field making business decisions, and if you're making business decisions, they're going to get you out of here. I mean, it just goes to show you what losing to the Panthers can do to a team. Like, that's not good, man.
It's not. Adams yesterday, he had 4 receptions for 40 yards, and then they had like this thing floating around on Twitter where he just was stunned. So we'll see.
Yeah, I like Jacoby. I think Jacoby's a good player. Obviously, Devontae is. If one of those guys became available, sure, that'd be great to add.
Yeah. Let's see. Next from Queen Han. Hopefully it was shell shock and the O-line will step up with preparation going into next week.
I mean, that's the thing I'm willing to see. I'm willing to wait and see what it looks like when they have time to prepare for it. Like, I really do think they're smart coaches. We saw some stuff in week 2 that was kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe like they thought of this, they thought of that. I can't believe they figured out how to beat Micah like this. Like I said, though, it's a lot to hide, but I think the way you approach stuff is completely different with time to prepare. There's stuff that you aren't going to put into the game. There's stuff you aren't going to put on the center or the interior line. Like, there's probably ways that you look to do things a little bit differently so that you aren't getting overloaded in there. So we're going to see. But, yeah, I'm willing to see what it looks like. And then if it looks terrible, then I'm going to probably be a little bit more panicked about, how do they survive this stretch without Eric McCoy.
Yeah. Any update on Taysom? He missed yesterday's game.
Again, Dennis Allen kind of made an indication that he thinks he'll be back this week. Jay Glazer reported it was a bruised lung before the game. But still, that diagnosing it as a bruised lung, I mean, I believe in the usage we saw. I mean, he was doing a lot during practice. Yeah. And Dennis Allen said he thinks he's close to only missing a week. So good chance we see him this week, although it's something to be precautionary with if he doesn't have his full, breath or if he has any shortness of breath.
Yeah. Next up, what exactly is the status on McCoy's injury? What is his injury?
It's a groin injury. Those always vary. We've seen some take 2 weeks, some take 6 weeks, somewhere in between, be my guess. Maybe after the Thursday night game, maybe, or something like that. I don't know. I have no idea for sure.
I think, maybe groin, maybe something a little more extensive.
Oh, okay.
Mixture of this next question is a mixture from Ian Perez and Bayou Soul. The Bucks just lost to Denver. We can still easily get a division, and then is the division still wide open right now?
Yeah, the division's definitely wide open. Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, you win next week, and you're right on track again. I would like to see them be in a situation where they can go and lose at Kansas City, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, they just need the win.
Win the division games would be huge over the next 3 weeks. Yeah.
Next from Jay Jernigan, could Holker learn Taysom's role? Being a smaller tight end, maybe could he be used as a joker?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably some overlap there if you want it. I don't think he's the greatest blocker in the world. I mean, so that's something that would need to get improved. Obviously, you aren't going to use him as a ball carrier. So I think there's like some stuff that you could use with him, but Taysom's such a unique player that it's the job of 25 people to do everything he does, but there's nobody that's going to be able to come in, carry the ball like him, be a lead blocker like him, go out and run the same routes as him, throw a pass like him. There's just stuff that nobody's like, no, Holker can't replace
what's interesting? He was active yesterday, didn't play a snap.
Daniel Dial, take on Penning's late hit penalty. Fortunately, it didn't affect the outcome on the drive, but in the future, DBs definitely will not want to go up against Penning, LOL.
Well,
yeah.
fair, but that was too much. I would have,
Yeah.
I thought he might get pulled from the game. I mean, especially since it was a repeat offender mistake. You can't do it. I mean, you can't do it. I thought that was going to cost them the game. They ended up scoring on that drive, but unforgivable, I think.
Next up from I Am Jeff, besides McCoy, how much did Taysom's absence really hurt this game?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. I think you'd like to use him on, one of them, either 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. Like,
Sure.
he's your battering ram. So I think that matters. Line him up behind Prentice and just maybe bully your way to it somehow. I mean, yeah, it matters. I think it affects a lot.
Next up from Mason Davis, AK looked like he was hurt on one play when we were in the red zone one of the times. LOL. Is this something to monitor closely, or is it just a cramp?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, Mike, you and I, it wasn't that time, but in that first drive.
Yeah, early, and then obviously he came back and played a ton after that. But, I mean, like we said, he had 29 touches in the game. If he comes out of this one banged up and we don't see him on the practice field Wednesday, there'd be a lot less shocking things than that.
Yeah, we're here at Tracy's on Magazine and Pleasant, so be sure to come out here. We're on the upstairs bar right now. It's a beautiful space. Downstairs, they have great food, a great atmosphere. Just make sure you continue to come out. Next up from Mojave, when Taysom is gone in motion, defense goes nuts.
Yeah, they do. I mean, losing him affects a lot. I think the big thing though is like your ability to disguise. It's a major factor. I mean, he's kind of a chess piece in this offense, and this offensive system loves their chess pieces. So being without him, definitely is a big deal. He's a great player, and that's something you got to try to replace. But like you see, Juszczyk being used a lot of the same way in San Francisco, and he's a big piece of what they do. You take him out, their identity changes a little bit. I think the Saints' identity obviously changed a little bit yesterday without him.
No question.
Next up from Patrick Kelly, there is no planet where we bring in Michael Thomas as a big body wide receiver 3, right?
I don't see it happening.
Right.
I don't see it happening. I mean, I think it just kind of ran its course last year. I still think I'll die believing that Mike can go out there and play though. Like, and I think he could go out there and play. Like he was playing good before he got hurt last year. It's too bad that things played out the way they did. It would have been interesting to watch him in this offensive system, but. You never say never, but I don't see that one coming.
I think it's more likely that Jimmy Graham finishes this boat trip and they bring him back, whatever he's doing right now. But no, they threw to him 4 times last year. I'm not considering him a solution either.
Next up from Cam, people talk about DA's fourth quarter issues, but do you see this loss as a different because you can't predict 2 players running into each other?
Yeah, I don't know. Do people talk about DA's fourth quarter issues? I know people criticize DA heavily. I don't know that. I didn't know that it was a fourth quarter on defense. Defense did crater in this. They actually had their best drive of the game and came from behind to take the lead in this game in the fourth quarter.
I think they're probably talking about like
the 2 defenses,
Minnesota, San Francisco, things like that, where there's kind of that last play they give up like an explosive somewhere and it causes issues like that. That's what they're talking about. I mean, the guy ran into other people. I don't know. Everything always comes back to the coach. I mean, that just seems to be like a major isolated execution issue more so than the call to play to me. I know you can argue over man versus zone in that situation, but at the end of the day, like these dudes gotta execute the play, and like they didn't there. But it's a common theme, so I don't think it's an unfair talking point either.
Yeah.
Next from Ethan Ward, did Shaheed catch the ball over the middle in the first half?
I watched it like 8 times today. I thought he did. I thought he caught it.
I mean, I did not go back and review it. I probably watched it 3 or 4 times while it was happening yesterday and while they were showing replays of it. And my thinking was, if he was higher in the air, the way that Gardner Johnson hit his hand on the ball and made it come out of his hands, because first of all, I was checking to see was it a forced fumble, and that they called it incomplete. I was like, if you don't completely complete the act of the catch, get 2 feet down, someone hits it out of your hand, they usually say you have to maintain control of the ball. That's just kind of how I That was my best guess as
The
to how they
knockout-
would have interpreted it. But
The knockout seems so late in it, though.
I know. It's tough because he was laying on the ground. Yeah.
I don't know. As a common sense thing, watching the play, he caught the ball. Like I don't know how they roll everything, but it's just like a normal person being like, "Oh, did he catch that?" Like if I'm out at Mardi Gras
it was a
and like
fumble
somebody
if it-
reaches up and catches something, like it's caught, right? Like the ball doesn't hit the ground. Like just watching it, to me, it looked like a common sense catch, but like maybe the angle
But
wasn't
then
good.
it was
I
a
don't know.
fumble, right? The
'cause he
alternative
was
is
down.
fumble.
He was down.
But nobody touched him.
I think he did. Like I think he was down.
But you got to be touched.
But like the play was done. Like to me, it
The
was.
play's not dead until you're touched. So
I
I
mean,
think
they'll
that-
whistle people down though. Like
Right.
if you give yourself up to the ground,
Right.
like that's a thing you can do. Like to me, it was like he wasn't trying to like it was done. He caught it. Like to me, it looked like a catch. I don't know. Like
Right.
it's not something I want to like argue about, but like as a common sense thing, watching the play,
Yeah,
like it
for
looked
sure.
like he caught the ball, and I don't know.
I think it would have been worth reviewing. Absolutely. I bet it wouldn't have got overturned though.
I mean, they didn't. It took forever to get to the next play, so
Yeah.
like
They were probably looking at
they
it, yeah.
probably didn't think it could be. And the rolling on the field like sets a precedent too in some of those situations. So I don't know.
Next from MB, Shaheed had 5 targets and no catches.
It's crazy. I mean, he had a chance to catch that one deep. He probably caught that one. Couple others, they just didn't have him. But yeah, he's another guy. Like we're talking about, where's Cedric Wilson? Where's Mason Tipton? Where's A.T. Perry? They got to find a way to get the ball in Shaheed's hands where it's not just the shot plays too.
From Brian Cavett, why was Jawan Johnson held without a single catch?
Wasn't open.
Wasn't open. Was used as a blocker a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot of guys caught passes. Period, because
Let's
they
see how
didn't
many
have time
routes
to
he
throw.
Yeah.
Oh, you're checking to see how many routes he ran.
Oh, yeah. Next up from Mojave, do you think Lattimore being out a couple weeks might have messed up with the DB's rhythm, which might have led to them running into each other?
No. Lattimore was running full speed following the guy he was covering and did not expect to run into a safety, but that wasn't because Lattimore was doing anything wrong in that moment.
Lattimore played a great game.
Yeah. Next up from Kevin Ross, shout out to you, man, for your support. We appreciate it. Gardner's knee hit his helmet before the knockout. So
Okay.
going back to
Okay.
the Rashid Shaheed catch, I'm guessing that's the contact.
So that's when he's down, yeah.
Yeah. Next up,
I mean, it must not have been. And the angles weren't great. Like I watched the all 22 a bunch of times from both angles, from both end zones. I watched the TV stuff. Like, there's nothing that kind of really said like smoking gun here, but
Yeah.
it like you watch it, and I'm just like, again, the catch thing is so stupid to me. But as a common sense person,
Yeah.
yeah.
like I don't know, like, but there's a lot of plays where I'm like, oh, he caught that, and then they're like, well, he didn't take 3 steps and do hopscotch. Like, I don't know, like, what they're doing. Like, it's just very hard to figure out.
Ajax 42-2. What's y'all confidence level going into the Saints versus Falcons on the road? P.S. I live in Atlanta and will still be talking major trash.
I'd consider it a coin flip now. If they had played this game in week 3, I would have felt better about the Saints winning, and now I consider it a coin flip. But absolutely, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Saints look a lot cleaner than they did yesterday and win the game. I think it's two fairly evenly matched teams.
It's off the board for me. I mean, I just don't know what they're going to look like without McCoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin 000. So we put the 3-player pile up on Howden?
Yeah.
Howden put it on himself last night when I talked to him. He said he's the one who was playing safety over the top while everyone else is playing man, and the guys playing man have to, they're chasing their guys at full speed. He's the one who has to kind of see the bigger picture. But he tried to crash down when he saw the Goddard crossing route and, crashed down too aggressively.
Two more. We got to get the Saints.
Got you. I am Jeff. I was amazed at how well Kubiak was able to scheme to mask the offensive line's weakness out the gate. Is it even possible to mask this even more with an even more depleted front?
Yeah, it is, I think, to some level, but it's a lot. It's a lot you're trying to protect. And I don't know. I'm going to wait and see what he does. Like he's earned my benefit of doubt. I don't know if he's earned everybody else's, but for me, I'm going to wait and see what he can do. I have personal doubts. It feels like a lot, but I sat here before week 1 and said, like, I don't know what they're going to do at right tackle. I don't know how that's not like just an open hole every single game, and then it wasn't, and you go and watch how they did, and it's like, damn, this was brilliant. So I'm going to wait to see what they do, because I was just maybe the most wrong I've ever been feeling about a position entering a season, and It turned out to be okay for, 2.5 games, So I'm going to see.
When Andrew Newton heard you saying that we had 2 more and I was reading off the next one, he spammed the chat to make sure that this question got. How do you feel about the refs on the spot of the ball on 4th and 1? Felt like we definitely got it closer than how they spotted it.
I went back and did look at that one a few times, and I thought Alvin got it to the naked eye. And then when I went back and looked at it, he made a great effort to get it. He got his legs, he got his waist, but he kind of got flipped around. The ball itself, I think they spotted pretty good.
I thought the spot was short, but I thought he was short. When I watched, I don't think he got it, but I thought he was closer than the chains maybe said. But yeah.
Well, the other thing that I noticed is the chains didn't seem to be lined up with the little orange. But then again, he was probably watching on TV and maybe saw maybe they had a yellow line or an orange line or whatever. But the orange thing that they stick on the ground, to mark the first down. Yeah. The chains went way past that.
Dude, I don't understand how I can watch a soccer game and they can tell me
2024.
They can tell me if to a centimeter, if enough of the ball crossed the line or whatever. They can tell you all that. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing overseas, but they need to get it over here. I don't understand why.
Unbelievable.
If we're just trusting them to keep the slack right or I don't know, just to make sure they're walking out at the perfect point. You got 2 people. I just don't. It's the dumbest process in the world.
I've been saying that, honest to God, for more than 20 years. I remember when I covered the Niners, in 2000, it was my biggest campaign because the thing that drives me nuts when you watch a game is watch the guys set the chains down. They are 75 yards away, running, look, and set it down like this. That is how the chain gets set. And then they go and act like it's an exact science. It drives me nuts.
Mike is anti-chain game.
Drives me nuts.
I mean, there's definitely a better way now, though.
There's definitely. I know they technology and all of that. Yeah.
They tried it out and they didn't feel like it was exact enough during the preseason in a few games. I just don't understand. I don't know. Get that thing in every football on every Friday night. Just do the test case and be ready to go. I don't make it a priority.
Bro, there was a group of 7 of us in the new iPads that they put in there. We're able to pick out each of our faces in 5 seconds. The technology is definitely.
No, they just need the they got enough money. Go figure this out. This is dumb.
Yeah. We appreciate y'all for stopping in for this edition of the Q&A show. We're here at Tracy's on Uptown on the corner of Magazine and Pleasant. Be sure to come check them out, man. They have great facilities and great food. Catch you next time.